Crawford.
Good morning, good Friday.
Our resident ME, and Tony's going to be presenting today on Innovating with BIM, working between Revit and Navisworks. Now, this may be a fairly short webinar because it's really not that necessarily, the round trip isn't necessarily that hard to do, but
yeah, there's one little piece, but it goes pretty quick. Because we end sometimes, I don't know if we should let in on the secret that we write these descriptions months before we put together the, they're scheduled a long ways in advance to get everything put together.
And this is one that Autodesk specifically has us doing. So with that, most of you have been on a GoToMeeting. Can you
raise your hand if you got it?
Can you raise your hand and see if you can hear us?
Oh, it is good.
Hit the little raise your hand button there. Tony sounds far away. Well, Tony always sounds far away, but at least Tony sounds, so that's the good thing.
That's the important part. Let me see. Where's opening them up? Well, I see one hand. Is there? Oh, there's more hands. Okay.
Okay, good. It
All right.
Looks like we're making some sense here. Most of you know the procedure. If you want to move the console out of the way, you hit the orange and white arrow. If you can't hear us, it doesn't matter whether you hit your microphone and speakers button or your telephone button, because you can't hear us to know that. And most importantly, if you want to ask some questions, you can hit the type in your questions in the question box.
Yeah, and speaking of questions, I'm going to launch. I have a couple of polls I prepared. This is the interactive part. One of the interactive parts. Click on the part of the poll, the question, the answer that corresponds closest to you. And it looks like, okay, there's votes coming in. Architects and subcontractors are in the lead right now. Oh, engineers just tied for third with other. So I'm going to close this down. Looks like the numbers are slowing down. I'm going to close it in 3, 2, still numbers. I'm going to close it. Okay, and then I'll launch this one so you can see what the results were. There it is. So a lot of architects and subcontractors are, okay.
Good.
Another question I'm going to bring up as soon as I can. There's like 10 different things I have to click just to bring up the question, and another 9 clicks to bring up the other question. So how long have you been using Navisworks, if at all? Less than a year, or to include 0. Which is in the lead right now, and the others the numbers are changing. Looks like they're settled down. So no, numbers are still changing. So I'll give you just a few seconds to so that we know who we're talking to. This is roughly what we were expecting, but wanted to make sure. So I'm going to close that out. 3, 2, 1. There we go. And I'll share this one. There we go. So you can see. What do we have? I can't.
We have about 50% who are brand new or have not used it, and about a third who have used it a little bit and so forth, and then 1 or 2 advanced people. And we figured it might be people who hadn't used it too much who were the key audience here, and that's probably a good thing, because we'll actually be teaching you something.
Yeah. And I've tried to get kind of a variety of stuff. So even if you have been using it, hopefully there'll be something in here useful.
And I'm still getting no volume messages and this and that. If I'm saying this and you can't hear me, it doesn't really matter. But hopefully people can hear us here. I don't know what would be wrong otherwise, because our sound level checks and everything show that we're broadcasting, so hopefully we're good.
Yeah, and it looks like most people can hear. Yeah, some people are hearing sounds fine. Okay, it says I sound farther from the mic. Somebody just commented, which I kind of am, just the way the desks are arranged.
Over by you, since you're
okay.
You're the main presenter. Okay, good. Sorry for the little bit of confusion today. It's just kind of like, wow, what's going on here?
And in case, just to let you in on yet another little secret, it's the end of the quarter for Autodesk. It's the end of the year, the fiscal year for Autodesk. So Stan's just going crazy.
Oh, man.
He had hair this morning when he came in.
I did.
So there's most of the people are. I have been using Revit. I do have one last question. I'm going to pull this one up really quick. It's one that I don't think I've launched, polled before, and I don't think Stan's even seen this one. Just as I was putting together, I was starting to think, you know what, the calendar's changing just a little bit. We're putting together ones for this next year, so I'm just curious. How often do you regularly attend the webinar? Is this your first time ever? Maybe I should have put in there, how did you hear about it, but that might take more answers. So it looks kind of across the board. Some regular attendees. The numbers are still coming in, still changing.
We're always looking to improve our webinar program, and it's kind of quasi-free training, free information, and we want to make sure that we're putting the right stuff out there. And we introduced our Master Series this year. We're really excited about that. Jason from BCER did the first one a couple weeks ago, and we have another one with Sandy from Denver Water in March, and then one on site design in May coming up. So lots of good things going on. Looks like kind of a pretty much equal mix here. So Tony, let's go ahead and get rolling. So these people's billable hours are worth something. Alrighty, it should be. Oh, I told you I had to click 9 different buttons. There. Nope. Come on. There it is. Just to do those polls, there's kind of a lot of clicking. So anyway, so what we're going to take a look at today is very briefly on why Navisworks. I think I went one slide too many. What is Navisworks? Just a really quick overview on what is Navisworks, why use Navisworks, why and when, and then the meat of it's going to be we're going to take a model, kind of a round trip. We're going to be going back and forth between Revit and between Navisworks. I'll start off with a blank. I opened Navisworks already, but I don't have any files open there. I also opened Revit, don't have any files open in that. So I'll combine files in Navisworks from multiple sources, could be different design firms. Anyway, they're different files, and we'll run a quick check for interference, and we'll take a look at that. And then, let's say if something does need to be moved, we'll switch back to Revit, and I can see the same items in the same or very similar camera view back in Revit. If we have time, we'll look at a couple other things. I just have a few things just listed. There is a compare model tool. I might not even show you that if you're not aware of that. That's worth looking at. It's not too complicated. We'll just look at some other stuff. So why would somebody use Navisworks? Why are you hearing about Navisworks maybe more often? Maybe if you're the architect, maybe the subs or the GC is requesting it. Well, the very concise, brief answer is the industry is changing. Everybody knows the industry has already changed from drafting on paper to drafting on the computer. Now the industry is changing from drafting on the computer to modeling on the computer. It's BIM, Building Information Modeling. I'm sure you've heard this many times. Because kind of some of the reasoning. Just a nice quote that I found. The rapid adoption of BIM over the last decade, the last few years, depending on exactly where you're at. I know the Denver area, the Colorado, has adopted. I actually think a bit more than a lot of areas. And depending on the market, residential, commercial, etc., suggests that the construction industry is moving quickly away from the traditional methods involving bringing in new methods, new technologies for building delivery, for consuming the designs, also to stay competitive, to grow the business. Companies are looking at how to move ahead and stay ahead of their competitors by doing more with less. Just a slide from the McGraw-Hill construction report shows that over a 2-year period, contractors expect the percentage of their work to increase 50% on average. And some of them have very high levels of BIM implementation. You can see the U.S. is the last one on the right, slightly higher than others. I know I'm in some like LinkedIn groups, some networking groups, whatever. The UK is definitely is pushing for BIM, and you can see they're not, percentage-wise, they're not that far behind. Just quick graphics. It kind of illustrates CAD versus BIM, 2D versus 3D, and not just 2 dimensions versus 3 dimensions. There's intelligence in there. Instead of just having these 2 lines represent a wall and these 2 lines represent a duct, it knows what this wall is made of. I don't have to go to another sheet. I don't have to go to another spec. I don't have to rely on somebody else to update that other document if it changes.
it's right there. The data is embedded in that wall. The data is part of that duct or that diffuser or that light, whatever's in there. So hopefully that's hopefully that helps out a little bit. Lost my train of thought there.
Well, now one of the key things with Navisworks, as many of you know, we've got a pretty diverse range of experience here, but about 75 to 80% of you are not very familiar with Navisworks or have not been using it for a long time. So the main purpose of Navisworks is a model aggregation tool. So what that means is that you're able to bring together models from many sources, whether it's a Revit model, an AutoCAD model, AutoCAD architecture, but not just AutoCAD. Maybe it's a SolidWorks model. Maybe it's an Inventor model. Maybe it's you're doing plant design and it's a Pipeworks or a CADWorks model. Maybe it's a DGN model, a ProEngineer model, an STL file, a Civil 3D, or some sort of other civil model. It allows you to bring all those together, then aggregate them into one contiguous model that is at least somewhat technology agnostic, not completely, but somewhat technology agnostic. It allows you to look at the things that are going on in the model, do everything from coordination checking, seeing where pipes and ducts and beams and columns are running into each other, to just do fly-throughs, walkthroughs for a client, allows you to do scheduling, job scheduling, timeline scheduling off of Gantt charts. Quite a bit of, there's some new tools in the 2015 version that will allow you to do counting and to some degree cost analysis. It has to be set up pretty well, but most of our customers are using, in the building industry, are using, at least architectural customers, and that was the largest number of people on this call, although there were MEPs and contractors and others as well. Most are using Building Design Suite Premium, and Building Design Suite Premium includes, as one of the products, Navisworks Simulate. Navisworks Simulate is a flavor of Navisworks that has all the functionality except automated clash detection. The automated clash detection is found in the ultimate version of the suite, and that is called Navisworks Manage. And Navisworks Manage allows you to do as I said, the automated clash detection. But even though many of you have just the premium suite, the tools in Navisworks and the round-trip features and so forth, so that you can at least do, even in your own architectural office, where you're not doing total project collaboration yet, but you want to check things out and see, what's bumping into each other, where am I going to have some problems. It's a great tool to get used to. You own it, you might as well learn to use it to some degree. So with that, Tony, you're kind of scooting around the foundations of this building. What do you want to talk about?
So what Stan was just saying, one of the big uses of Navisworks is collision detection, clash detection, and that's in the Ultimate Suite. It's not in the it's not in the Simulate.
Thank you. The Simulate package, but you can do visual clash detection, walkthroughs, and things like that, and you can use the Simulate version as a file viewer when you have somebody who has the managed product and does an automated clash detection. They can send you over the file, and you can at least look at the file and pull the information from it.
So what I've done here is I've aggregated the files, just like Stan said. I brought in mechanical and I brought in electrical. I have the architect. I haven't brought that in yet. I was going to demonstrate that, but you can see
because he's an MEP guy and he doesn't like to bring in architectural stuff. But
not if I can help it. No, it looks nicer, but this way I can select the items quicker. So I've selected two. You can see they're in blue, and the little bit that's left of my drawing area I selected 2 electrical panels just because I know what they are. You can, if I had one at a time, you can see them in the properties. So then, okay, so I've brought together a file. I brought together multiple files. I can look at them all at the same time. I can walk through, fly through, navigate through there. And I can run and so I could just walk through and look at clashes, which is not a bad way to do it. I can also run a clash detection with the clash detection tool. So what I've done so far is I've selected pipes on the left. There's 2 different tabs here. Selected pipes on the left and selected electrical equipment on the right, just to see if there's any clashes in between them. I will run this test at the bottom. Just click a button. It goes through there and it tells me nope, no clashes. Alrighty. Well, I think there should be a clash in here. Well, let me see what I can do. Or maybe there's not a clash now, and then the architect or the MEP or the mechanical or the electrical sends me a new file. Alright, so I'll demonstrate a couple of different things here. Here I have a building. It's relatively small, 2-story building. If you want to see what it looks like, actually let me append architect. This is what the building looks like. There's my build. Come on, zoom out. There we go. There's. It's the fun of a live audience. This worked.
Well, it doesn't look like you have your origin points matched up there.
No, which is odd because the last time I hit a pen, it came in fine. I didn't have any trouble with that one. But believe it or not, I really was going to hit undo just so that the building's not in our way. Yeah, you can also go through the selection tree. I'm going to just remove this one. Yeah, I'll just delete that. We'll come back to that later.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
What is this?
Jason, you made the comment, and it's a very good one because it's a question that comes up quite often. There is a fundamental clash detection tool in Revit. So you can, many people say, well, what's the difference? Well, the clash detection tool in Revit only allows you to do clash detection on Revit models, or if you have the architectural and the structural and the MEP all put together, you can do clash detections there, but you can't bring in let's say a DGN or an ArchiCAD or a Civil 3D or anything like that. So that's a limitation. You can only do one clash at a time. You really don't get the same information as to what the cause and effect will be like you will out of Navisworks. If you want to move something, and if Navisworks tells you need to move something, it will give you information about if you move it this way, this may happen. If you move it that way, that may happen. What you'll get in the Revit model is just a simple, oh, these 2 things run into each other, and so you better, it doesn't even tell you anything. It just kind of like fix that.
Yeah, the Revit one is pretty simple. It will tell you the clashes, and that's about it. You don't have any options. If you can see, let me do the other one. Come on, there we go. At the bottom of my screen, I have some options for my clashes. Do I want to have a hard clash or a clearance? You have this option.
Like for fireproofing.
Exactly. If they didn't put fireproofing around the beams, they didn't put didn't model insulation around the ducts, I can say, if this beam comes within 2 inches of the duct or whatever, or 1 inch for insulation or whatever it is, I can add that with Navisworks. I don't have that option in Revit. So it's a lot more robust. You can keep track of it. So I've run a clash.
Yes, and Juliana notes that the Revit clash detection is much, and I would say much, much slower. It's a great little tool just to do a kind of a spot check, but that's about all you're going to do. You're certainly not going to coordinate a construction project or a multidiscipline project. So, enough said about the Revit clash detection, but that's what it is.
It's not nearly as robust. It'll do it, but it doesn't have nearly as many options. So, okay, we ran a clash once, and I happen to know that something has changed in this, so I'm going to append it.
Like the building turned sideways.
Yeah. And in fact, I'm just going to skip a step, and I'm going to add the mechanical Revit file. So I'm appending, when I started off, I opened up 2 Navisworks files. NWC files, you can get those, you can export those from AutoCAD, export from Revit. You can do MicroStation, I forget what other format. You can open...
There's over 50 formats.
Is it 50? Okay, yeah. I didn't think it was that many. And this is one of them, not just a Navisworks format. I'm going to natively open There's my Revit file. Is that there? I'm going to call that one good. I'm going to hit open.
For some of those of you who have been using Navisworks for a while, this native Revit format was just added in the last year or so. So it's nice because now you don't have to convert those Revit files to an NWC necessarily. You can bring in the native format.
And see if I can make this show up. There's the same objects again. Alrighty. And I can run the clash detection. It looks okay. You know what? I'm going to do, you know what? I want to see these. Where are these at in Revit? I'm going to open up that file. See, so I switched over to Revit. I don't have any files open. I'm just going to open up that electrical file. Just going to have a look in there. Let's see if we can find those same elements. Now, this project is not too complicated, but let's say it was a complicated project, a huge, 20-story building, or you got 2 million square feet. Let's see what happens.
I've sat in on a few coordination meetings where just that, not 20-story, but I think it was an 8-story building, somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, 60, 70,000 square feet. And it's really an amazing process to go through.
Yeah, and I know there's some, particularly the larger companies, larger projects, are doing this down to a very fine level of detail.
Yes, they are.
Sometimes because they have to. Like something complicated like a hospital, since it's been recorded, I won't use my standard analogy, but a lot of stuff into a small bag, if that rings any analogy bells. So what I can do, I've selected this item. There's a couple ways I can choose to start the switchback command. I can right-click on it, or I can run it right from the ribbon. What that does, important safety tip. Now you get to see what happens with live Revit webinars. I have to find my external tools. I have to activate it back in Revit. See, it didn't work a second ago. I have to, like I said, I just started up Revit. This is fresh. You do have to, and this is a good reminder, I do have to activate this back in Revit. Navisworks Switchback. Okay, now it's active. Now I can go back to, I'm back in Navisworks. I can right-click on this or just use the Switchback tool, and it switches to switches over to Revit, moves over, and shows me this item in the same view. This time I have a building in the way. So let's take a look at that. Yeah, let's do that again. Since I'm like outside the building right now, I want to be a little closer. Let's say I want to see this panel exactly. Maybe I'll do a small panel just to choose a different one. I'm zooming in a little bit closer this time, so I just see that. And watch, it'll give me a different view, and it'll zoom in on a different object. This can also be done with AutoCAD. You have to type in, like I typed in the tool there, you have to type in, I think it's NW load if you do it in AutoCAD. Let's see, navigation. Oh, come on. I can take a look at this. There's my zoom tool. I can zoom out a little bit, figure out where I'm at. Oh, I'm on the back side. Okay. This is the view that I was looking at in Navisworks. I can do this yet again. I can come from the other side. Wherever I'm at, maybe I'm going to be looking down in Navisworks. Use the switchback tool, find that object, switch over. It automatically it zooms in really close. There we go. That's a little bit better. Let me do. Anyway, I'm in the same part of the building that I was at in Navisworks. I don't have to walk around.
Looks like the switchback tool kind of leaves you with a little bit of guesswork there. But
only when people are watching. So I did this 100 times yesterday, and it worked quite well. There's, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to that's a transformer. I'm going to hide my building, just like I did in the Navisworks. There we go. I'm going to use the sunglasses at the bottom and temporarily hide this element. The reason I did not have it loaded in Navisworks because it would just block my view. It'd be too much in the way. If I hide it here, oh, actually, there it is. I was looking at it all along. If I can select it, there we go. Do you see what the properties are when I selected this object that's been in front of me all along? It's a lighting and appliance panel board. That's the electrical panel that I was trying to find. It was right in front of me all along. Maybe it zoomed in a little too close. That's the switchback tool. Let's say I need to make some sort of a change because, oh, you know what? Look at that. Taking a look at this panel, These panels, does that look like a lighting and appliance panel board? Maybe not. Looks more like a washing machine to me. What this is, see if I can make it shaded. No, looks like I didn't save the changes. That's a, well, should I poll the audience to see if anybody knows why my panel board looks like a washing machine, like it's a really big box?
I would just say because it's not detailed.
Ah, close. It's actually, well, it's not over detailed. If I take a look at this, I look at my electrical equipment, I'm in Revit now. If I expand this, I can make, well, I don't know if I'm going to go through all of these steps. What that is a clearance zone. Yeah, I did do this. Well, I don't know why it's not showing up right. It's because there's an audience. When there's nobody watching, it works great. Worked good yesterday. Yeah, no, it's line. These are clearance zones added to this panel board because I need to have, what, 36 inches in front of it or 30-some inches to the side and a certain height above, depending on how high it's mounted. I need a clearance above, and I need a clearance in front of this electrical panel. Sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments. Yes, thank you. 36 inches clearance, and another one. Oh, yes. Several people are using placeholders, clearance zones. And I do like to have mine transparent. In fact, I set it transparent last night, and now it's not transparent. I don't know what I did to it. I was kind of tired by the time I left here last night. So yes, that way when I run the class, in fact, I'm going to export this again. So I'm in Revit. I'm going to export this to Navisworks. I'm going to give it, I'm going to replace the mechanical file with this clearance zones visible. So what happens when I close out of this in Navisworks? There we go. So that happens when you do the same thing on both computers at the same time. There we go. It's converting it now. I'm going to do that one more time just to be safe. Export to that. Navisworks. The name is good. Electrical. Save. Replace. There we go. Now it's converting it. Now that should have these clearance zones in here. So before, when I ran the test, I did not get any collisions. This time when I run it, I'm going to do the exact same step and open the mechanical. I'm going to append it. And I'm wondering if anybody's noticing if I had to change something just there. I'm going to redo the electrical. There it is, dated today. Appending this one in here. So now I have both. Both files are in here, mechanical and electrical. I'm going to hide this long story on why that one's in there. Bottom line is the quote Han Solo. It's not my fault. That was already in the file. And without spending a lot of extra time, I have to leave it there. Long story. See if I can, there we go. There's my washer and dryer again. This time, they actually look like, I hide some of the other cubes in here. Now they look like they did in Revit because I gave it an updated, I updated the file. Whatever's visible when you export, with a few rules and exceptions. For example, building links don't export by default, but there's one checkbox for that. Whatever's visible on the screen or visible in your view when you export is what's exported to the Navisworks file. So this time these were visible, the clearance zones. So now I have these big boxes. Now it looks like a washer and dryer for my electrical panels. In fact, I can see visually. I don't even need to run the clash detection. Oh, look at that. There's a pipe that's actually going right over my electrical panels. Maybe I didn't notice that before. Now it's much more obvious because I've put in geometry for those clearance zones. So somebody's violating the space above the electrical panel. I'm going to have a word with that plumber. Oh wait, the plumber's me. But or whatever it is, you can run the class reports. Let me run this class report again. I will add starting over again. So I will add, there we go, mechanical. So I'm choosing from the left. I want to see mechanical. I want to choose all the pipes. Pipes and pipe fittings on the right. I'm going to choose electrical. So it's not clashing everything versus everything. It's only clashing the objects that I've given it. So let's see, pipes, pipe fittings, electrical equipment. I'm going to do all the electrical equipment. All the pipes on the left versus all the electrical equipment on the right. When I run a test, oh, there it is. I got two clashes now. that was just with a click of a few buttons. And this is a very, very simple building, very, very clean. In fact, I even had to add that clash just so I could show you something. When you're still in the design phase, if the designers are still in the design phase and you're consuming this model, sorry, a really complicated building, you might miss a lot of them. And something like this clash detection in Navisworks can be a very useful tool to find all of those. And if you found most of them just walking through, great, you can fix those right away, and you have fewer of them in this clash detection tool. And a lot of times a clash detection tool, the number's not inflated, but what you might call one clash, Navisworks might call 12 clashes. If the same pipe runs through 6 beams and 6 cable trays or whatever it is, that's one pipe. You can move that one pipe down, move that one pipe over, and you've just cleared 6 clashes. So that's basically what that's the meat of it, is the clash detection tool, the switchback tool. Stan, you mentioned the question came up about being able to do the clashes in Navisworks. You have to have the managed version. If someone has a Navisworks managed version, these clashes can be exported. Where's my export? There's my export. Export clashes. I can export those as. Oops, I can export those anyway. I can export those as viewports. The viewpoints can be read. They can be seen when the simulate version of Navisworks. So if you're working with a team and not everybody has the manage, somebody on the team has to have the full manage. But you can export those clashes to the other versions of Navisworks.
Yes.
All you get is the views, though. Maybe some red lines if somebody stops and puts in the red lines in there. You don't get the status. You don't get the name of the clash. You don't get its, is it resolved? Is it approved? You don't get a list of it. You just get a picture of it. And then you can find where that's at. It is an option. Again, it's not nearly as robust as the full clash detection, but it might be an option. If you're using Navisworks, there's a couple, not really hidden buttons, but they're sort of almost hidden. There's a little expanded button for items at the bottom, and an expanded button for display settings at the right. The display settings at the right, I do like to point out when I'm working with Navisworks for somebody. If you haven't been using it very long, that's an easy dialog box to miss. It's part of this dialog box, and it gives you a few other options. Stan, was there questions or anything else?
Well, no, just Jason had a good point in that you see in a lot of the Navisworks when the file is aggregated and so forth, quite often it's very monochromatic, and it's a little bit hard to tell what's what at times, without color and so forth. So Jason gave the tip of what he does is he adds. Now Jason works in the MEP industry, so in his case he adds material to the duct or pipe systems with a color assigned so that when it gets exported out, the color is retained. And I think that's a good idea that can be used in several areas. Whether you're an architect, you can add some materials to the walls and kind of see those things and so forth. Newly exposed to Navisworks Revit, how do clashes, other action items integrate with project management tools, say create punch lists, revision requests, and so forth? It depends on the tools. I mean, it works well with Autodesk's BIM 360 field and glue. Glue is kind of I don't want to say it's a Navisworks light because it's really much more powerful than that, but that's kind of how it gets referred to in the industry. It also integrates, for 4D analysis, it integrates well with Timberline, Microsoft Project, a number of other tools. It integrates well with project planning software such as Primavera and, again, Project and several of those. It's very user-friendly across the board. I guess, Eric, seeing your question here, it kind of depends on the tool and the export format that, say, a punch listing program will take in. I know our friends down at BIM Shift have a program called Super Punch, which is a very cool little punch. It's not little; it's a very extensive punch list program, and they can bring in the Navisworks files and so forth. So it just depends on the program there.
Yeah. So I wanted to thank Juliana and Jason for the comments and questions, and Darren and Clint, and I missed somebody, Eric. So several were like on the clearance zone, why it looks like I'm calling it a washing machine or dryer. So yeah, they had some of the help with this one. And the 36 inches is the clearance zone. Thank you. Other questions, Stan?
Well, there's a lot of comments flowing back and forth about being able to import and export the colors and so forth on materials. It's a good idea. That's a little bit beyond the scope of this particular webinar, but it is a good idea. You know, it has some issues to it too, because if you're assigning material to something just so it's visible, and yet at some later point you really didn't want that to be that particular material, you have to think about the implications there. Eric, I would be happy to talk with you more, or Tony and I would be happy to talk with you more about kind of some of your questions and how it fits in the workflow, because there's a lot of ways this can fit into the workflow depending on what your workflow is. You know, as an architectural firm, the workflow is different than a construction firm. If you're in construction management, or if you're in the CD phase, or you know, the SD or the DD phase, or whatever, there's all sorts of ways that it can fit in. So if you ever want to just give us a call, I'll be happy to talk with you more about you know, kind of what you're doing, and give you a few more pointers as you kind of get indoctrinated into the full deal here.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out before I go away from this screen, I mentioned you can export this as viewports. It's on the last reports tab. You can export, and I believe, you know, without taking the time to try this right now, you do, well, personal preference actually, I like to check the box preserve results highlighting when you export the viewports. And then you can export that. They show up in your saved viewports. There's test 1. When you run it again, it shows up as test 2, test 3. Let me minimize this. And there, it's minimized. Clash 1, Clash 2. There's my 2 viewports. So I can see these. If I save this file, I can send this to somebody and they can see these clashes and all the other clashes. And Navisworks, I don't know if you notice, as you start to have all these tool palettes, all these toolbars open, you kind of run out of screen space. It gets to be pretty small. And I only have just a few open right now, and the clash detection takes up at least as much as you see right now just to get access to all the tools. This might be a reason to convince your management that you need a second monitor if you don't already have one, or bigger monitor, second monitor. You kind of I really like to have a second monitor for that. So I was expecting to have general contractors, subcontractors. I just wanted to show one little. It's back in Revit. I'm going to go back and forth between Navis and Revit. Quantification. Let's see how quickly I can get. I'm going to start with a brand new template. It's 99.9% out of the box Autodesk construction template. There's nothing in here. If I go to 3D view, there's nothing there. But I can get, and I wrote down on my notes, instant schedule, instant quantification within Revit. So if you're receiving Revit files and you're on their GC side or subcontractor, or you just want quantifications.
Well, quite frankly, if you're an architect, it gives you the, say, an architectural firm or an MEP firm, and you're just doing design work, it gives you a way to quantify, and you can add costs to it and so forth. So you can start giving feedback loops on some of the costs of the project, cost analysis, talking with a client about, what's this really going to cost if I want to put in that, VIX blue, lapis lazuli windows all the way around this sucker versus just double windows, things like that. I mean, that's a little silly, but you get people asking you those things. It allows you to run these kind of preliminary cost analysis fairly quickly.
True, and I know I showed this to a general contractor who's just starting to get Revit files. Sorry, talking and clicking at the same time. There it is. One more click. There we go. Let's do this one will work. So I'm linking in a file. It's an Autodesk file. This might take just a minute, but make a quick note. Did anybody see me change my origin to origin? Finally, Autodesk with Revit 2015 R2, the media release, they made origin to origin the default, and it remembers whatever you chose last. So I no longer have to choose origin to origin every single time when I'm importing a file into Revit. Just a minor click, but it's one quick and easy thing. So okay, I started with the file. I started with a blank, almost an out-of-the-box template. I changed one little checkbox. Seriously, one checkbox on several schedules. And okay, so I don't know if you saw the schedules. I opened them up. They were pretty blank. But now, when I open up these same schedules on the left, I have, oh look, there's some casework. 3 different casework quantities. Oh, let's take a look at some ceilings. Oh, I have 560 ceilings with 172,000 square feet. All I did was link in this file. Curtain wall mullions, I have a schedule for that. It's thinking a little hard. It's kind of a big building. It's a big, complicated hospital.
What Autodesk did was basically they had a program called Quantity Takeoff, or QTO. That's really been rolled into Revit this year. So,
or into Navisworks.
Excuse me. Yes, thank you. Into Navisworks this year. So that's really what we're using here to do this.
Well, no, this is actually out of the box Revit schedules. Is what I'm using here.
But a lot of that came out of the QTO product. It's where they borrowed that from.
Yeah, so this can be really useful. I could call it an instant schedule, instant quantification. All I did is link in that file. I can see what do I have: curtain wall panels, door quantities. Maybe I just want a quick list of the door quantities. There, just a few clicks. While I'm talking, I have 441 doors in this building. You can customize these schedules to be how you want it to be. I can see the different doors. I have 112 single flush, 190 the single, another different size, the single flush door. I had a file set up. I did go in and I checked the checkbox. That's all I did, is open up some of these schedules and check the checkbox, and that's the only thing I did to that template. It's the only thing I changed. Floor finishes, furniture quantities, furniture system quantities. I don't think there's much of that. Railings, ramps, rooms, stairs, windows. Windows is the last one. There's 131 windows in this building. That can be really useful if you're on the contracting side. You just get a file. Here's a Revit file. Go bid on it. Oh, by the way, the bid's due at the end of the day, or whatever it is. I don't know. But you can do some very, very quick scheduling just with Revit.
And you can add costs into this, and then,
yep,
like I said earlier, this can also be then tied into things like not Primavera, but Timberline and other estimating programs, other 4D programs that, for example, you have a catalog of materials. One of the examples that we like to use is that you have a window, but then you've got to have caulking, and you've got to have whatever else you need to put in the window into the wall, but you don't really want to model all that. You just want to know that when you have a window, it's got to have all this stuff with it, or a particular type of window, it's got to have all this stuff to it, and that has a cost to it. Well, you can kind of create this catalog of assemblies that has all of that material and the costs involved. So when you're estimating windows, the window costs this much, but the actual installation and materials cost this much additional. Things like that you can do, but it takes a while to set up.
Thanks, Sam. And I'm just going to play around just a little bit, see if I can make this look. No, that's not what I wanted. Yeah, I might not be able to get this to look just how I wanted. Maybe another webinar, I'll bring this one up. I think I used this a little while ago. Looks like a movie set if I get it lined up just right. So anyway, some additional things you can do with Navisworks. If I can get to my slides. There's a compare model tool. You can do some things with Revit. You can do the scheduling in Revit. Within, well, maybe not all just within Navisworks, but there's an Autodesk point layout. Might be something to take a look at, especially on the construction side. There's Recap, and there's Recap Pro. Recap Pro are basically the same thing. And there's also Recap 360 is different. It's also called Recap, and they do work together, but they do largely different things. That's kind of a couple of cool products. I think we did a webinar on that just in December.
Yeah, we did a webinar on Point Cloud a few weeks ago. I can't remember exactly when, but right before Christmas, I think it was there.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, so we were both drunk on eggnog.
Something like that.
That's why we don't remember it.
Yeah. So, just other stuff you want to add, Stan?
Well, I think that, you know, the funny thing was there's webinars that we do for ourselves, and then that we like to do, and then there's webinars that Autodesk asks us to do that we're kind of required to do.
You're pulling back the curtain a little bit.
Well, I am, because I think it's funny that they asked us to do a round trip between Revit and Navisworks webinar, and it's like, well, it takes about 4 seconds and it's 2 button clicks, so that's not really a webinar. So we decided last night that, well, let's do kind of a base overview of Navisworks, you know, just kind of a fundamental overview. And so that's kind of why we're hemming and hawing a little bit here today. But it was also just, it amused us. It's like, so we're going to have a 4-second webinar?
Yeah, I was looking at that. Like, yeah,
so anyway, I think that's probably enough today. But we do have other webinars, Tony, on Navisworks. Tony's done some of them. Brian Mackey has done some. Brian Juge has done some on Navisworks. They're on our YouTube page. Rick, you asked, do we have more webinars? Yes, we do. We have quite a few more. Denny here in the office, who manages our webinar program, is getting those set up and onto the system for the year. So that's why you're not seeing too many right now, but they are there. You can go to our webinars on our website and then go to the archives, and you can find a list of the webinars, or you can go just type in CAD-1 on YouTube. Another thing, folks, a lot of people are very excited about Dynamo. Dynamo is a programming language that can be used with, among other things, Revit. It is very cool. It was the hot topic at Autodesk University, and you know, many of you know about it. If you don't know about it now, you soon will, I'm sure. The other thing cool about it is it's free. It's actually not an Autodesk product. It's a open source programming language, but it's very cool. Just wanted to announce that we are going to have classes in Dynamo coming up very soon. So if any of you are interested in Dynamo training, please get in touch with us. It'll probably be one-on-one training until we get the class sizes built up, but very excited about this. Lots of fun.
Cool, yeah, and it is...
Bring back Lisp. Well, I'm just one Lisp routine away from perfection here.
That's right. Yeah, and the Dynamo is probably as close as you're going to get to Lisp.
Well, it's a visual programming language. It's very, very easy and fluid to use, and
it's not Lisp.
No, it's not.
It's different, but it's pretty approachable. It's pretty easy to use. It's pretty powerful.
So anyway, with that, Tony,
yes.
I think we've kind of said more than we possibly needed to today, and so thanks for joining us today, folks, and we will look for you very soon. And wish you the best for the weekend.
Enjoy the weekend. Happy Friday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.